Okay, good afternoon and welcome to this very special Tech on Tap event. My name is Ani Pagosian and I host the City of Glendale's Economic Development Division's monthly Tech on Tap events. Today we will have the exciting opportunity to introduce and meet Glendale's two new tech accelerators, Children's Hospital Los Angeles, KidsX Health, and Hero House Glendale Gateway Program to the City of Glendale and surrounding cities. Today, you will hear from Omkar Kulkarni, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, who will be running the KidsX Health Accelerator in Glendale, and from Hambartum Kagatsian, who is a founding partner at SmartGate VC, a pre-seed venture capital company who will be running Hero House Glendale Gateway Program. We encourage you all to ask questions in our Q&A chat box after each presentation. With that said, Omkar, are you ready for your presentation?
I am. Thanks, Ani. All right. Well, thank you all for joining today. I'm excited to tell you about KidsX. A little background about myself. So I am the Chief Innovation Officer at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, which is the hospital is located, as you probably know, in Hollywood. And we have a sizable amount of our corporate team in Glendale and have for many years. We're really proud and happy and honored, honestly, to be able to work with the City of Glendale to build this accelerator program in Glendale. And I'll give you some background around why this program is so special. In addition to being Chief Innovation Officer for the hospital, I will also be the Managing Director for the KidsX program. So many of you may know this. For some, this may be new, but in healthcare is a really important sector from a tech and innovation perspective. Specifically, as you can probably imagine, our lives right now, the fact that we're doing this virtually instead of, in person in a room is because of a major public health crisis. And we believe strongly that healthcare technology is going to be a key driver in the next 6 months, 12 months, years to come. It has been for the past decade and a half in terms of digital tech, but it will continue to grow pretty rapidly over the course of the next many months, quarters, and years. Specifically within that, we're really excited about pediatric innovation. So pediatric innovation is in my opinion, this really great opportunity and this great kind of untapped market within the health tech space. As you can see, pediatric patients take up about 20% of the national patient population, but we only so far have about 1% of the digital tech space when it comes to investment and activity and traction. So we think there's a sizable opportunity there. We're excited to be able to be leading the way, and a core element of what we're looking to do is collaboration. I'll talk about that in a second. So our program has two components. We have an accelerator component, which will be, as we mentioned, in the City of Glendale, run in partnership with the city, and we'll be focused on bringing together really promising startup companies from across the country, from across the world, and of course, from our City of Glendale here to Glendale. And the focus will be to really rapidly identify how we can support these startups, whether they're from our backyard or from halfway around the world. And the goal is going to be to figure out how we can accelerate the pace by which they are actually successful in pediatrics. The other element of this is learn, and this is where our deep commitment to the City of Glendale will be showcased on a regular basis. For a while, it may end up being virtual just based on the nature of the world we're in, kind of like we're doing now. But the goal is to have regular, active workshops, office hours, hackathons, events that we can do in Glendale for the entrepreneurs and the people in Glendale and the surrounding cities, where we can really drive healthcare innovation and pediatric innovation in a pretty rapid way. Next slide. So one of the things I'm really proud of, and I think for those of you who've been involved in innovation in any kind of way, particularly B2B innovation or B2B technology and entrepreneurship, B2B sales is difficult, right? So getting traction in any kind of enterprise sales is very difficult. particularly for a startup company. And then when you have industries that are heavily regulated and heavily kind of corporatized, you've got even further barriers that prevent you from entering into some of these enterprise contract opportunities. Healthcare is no different. For anybody who's built a healthcare tech company, particularly an entrepreneur who's working in enterprise sales, it's incredibly difficult to get yourself through that first door, get some reasonable traction with a hospital organization. So what we've done is we've actually built a consortium. You can see the logos on the slide. This is kind of the who's who of children's hospitals and from a tech and innovation perspective from around the world. And the goal is to bring these hospitals and these organizations together, to help support the startups in our community and the startups that we will be running through the Glendale Accelerator program. Next slide. So the accelerator itself is a 13-week program run in the city of Glendale. It will be the first of its kind. It's going to be the very first. It's the first of many things. To my knowledge, there is not a consortium-based accelerator program in any element of healthcare. Second of all, it's the first pediatric national accelerator program. Actually, we can say international now that we have an Australian partner and a British partner. And just generally, it's one of very, very, very few pediatric digital health programs, period, that exist in the world. So very excited to bring that to the city of Glendale. And the goal of the program is going to be largely twofold. Is largely going to be about determining and establishing product market fit for validating the product and validating the value proposition of the technology and the software that's being developed. And we'll talk about some of our secret sauces in the next slide. So what I'm particularly excited about is the approach that we have. So what we've done is we've studied the landscape, right? There are probably about 30 or so healthcare focused accelerator programs around the country. And many of them are successful, some of them are less successful. And what we've done is we figured out exactly what makes a accelerator more successful than another accelerator. And what we've done is we've built our approach accordingly to identify some of the things that are really promising amongst the accelerators and eliminating those that are less. So one of the first things that I think is really important is our approach starts with problems. We are talking to these children's hospitals from across the world and saying, what are your pain points? What do you want to solve? What are the solutions you would pay money for? So by starting that way, we identify the pain points, the focus areas, the potential business opportunities that these hospitals are already open to. So instead of, showing them a list of, 10 random startups, we're saying, look, these are the opportunities that we have to partner with you. Then, like a traditional process, we'll recruit companies, identify, interview, screen them. We'll have a selection day, and then we'll have our accelerator. Now, our accelerator is going to be January through March of this coming year in the city of Glendale. We've got a space that we're working with Ani on to really host the program. And at the end of that program, we'll actually have a demo day. Now, a core element of the way we're running this program is it's mentorship based. So if you have an interest, or if you know of people who have an interest in pediatrics, healthcare technology, anything adjacent to that space, or even just entrepreneurship in general, reach out to me. I think there's quite a bit of opportunity for us to find a way to engage with you. Next slide. We're looking for companies for our accelerator, that are post MVPs. They at least have an MVP, but they're not at the position where they're looking to scale and grow. So that's the general landscape that we're looking at, somewhere in that development or deployment phase. And one of our areas of focus likely is going to be something around COVID-19. So as you can imagine, families, perhaps even your families, based on our circumstance, we've all been impacted in some way based on COVID-19. So we have families that have kids that have been out of school. We have families who have special needs who are really struggling. We have families with young children, older children, and what we want to do is find technology solutions that may be able to help them live healthy lives, especially in this time of COVID, between the social isolation, physical distancing, exposure to additional diseases, people living with kids living with certain diseases who are unable to see their doctor. I mean, how can we basically leverage technology to improve health and well-being for kids and families, especially right now in this incredibly bizarre time? So in a nutshell, that's what we are. I would love for you to please post some questions. So the first question is this specific accelerator? Yes, it's for companies focused on healthcare technology. We are excited to identify, and healthcare technology is a pretty broad landscape. It could incorporate quite a few things. But yes, this specific accelerator is focused on healthcare technology, and I could share some data, but even during this pandemic, there's been quite the uptick in the number of investments, the number of deals that I've seen, the number of acquisitions in digital health and technology. There are quite a few companies that have raised significant rounds in the last 3 months. And I think it's reflective of the fact that investors and strategics are identifying the fact that healthcare and technology are the part of the future, right? For those of you who've either tried it or experienced it yourselves, or for your family members, telemedicine, virtual care has skyrocketed. It's been a hockey stick increase in terms of the utilization over the last 3 months because we're not able to see our doctors physically. And so that's one of many examples around how technology is bridging the gap. I mean, people still have to get their health care. And so how do we leverage technology to help make that happen in this time? From Kevin, are you taking investments from healthcare firms that have specific problems to solve? So our accelerator will not take any equity or any investment. That's just a choice that we've made. I think there are great accelerator models that do take equity. It's all there. Part of that for us is we really want to be able to be a program, and thanks to the City of Glendale for their support, we're able to run this program in a way, for us at least, where we don't have to take the equity, and we're able to truly focus our effort on helping these startups, and the startups can kind of maintain their ownership of their company. Again, like I said, there's all different models, and I think they're all really good. For us, we're not taking any specific ownership or equity. Amir, startup called CPD, looks like Uber and Lyft. That's neat. So I'd love to send me an email. I'll put my email I'll put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out, and would love to learn more about what your company or the company you're working with is doing. Our cohorts, we're going to run a once-a-year program. So we're going to run a once-a-year program, January through March of every year. And it will basically, there'll be 10 companies or 10 startups in each cohort. It is, my experience, and Hero House may have a different experience, and I think programs are done differently, but it takes a lot to build a good build a good accelerator. And so at least to start, and probably for a few years, our goal is to have one program a year, a really high quality program, and have 10 companies in each cohort. Applications will be launched right after Labor Day in September. So in August, I'm meeting with the various pediatric hospitals to identify what the problem statements are, and then we'll launch our applications sometime in early September. Thank you for that email address. I will send an email to you, info. Thank you. Yeah, so applications will be out in early September. We are happy to take, people, companies from anywhere. They do not have to be a US based. So happy to do that. And remember, we actually have partners at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London and Melbourne's Royal Children's Hospital. So we actually have, partners perhaps who you could even partner with. It depends on where they are in Europe or in Australia. But yes, happy to take any startup. Where they're based does not particularly matter. What will I be doing the remaining 9 months of the year? So it's a good question. When I first started doing the accelerator work myself about 5 years ago, I wondered, there's accelerators that run for 3 months. What happens the rest of the year? So two things. There's two things. One is running an accelerator involves a few steps, right? So in August, for example, we're launching our problem identification day. Then in September and October, we'll be actually recruiting and sourcing the right startups. In October, we'll be interviewing them. November, we'll be selecting and screening them, screening and selecting them, excuse me. December is a bit of prep work, and then January, February, and March is going to be when the accelerator actually runs. April is a bit of time to really transition, make sure these startups are properly transitioned into their pilots or their studies or trials that they're doing at these hospitals. And then in May and June is a little bit of debrief and reconfiguration. That's what the accelerator is doing. Now, remember, KidsX is broader than just that. There's also the learn component to it. So in that same time period, we will be doing, particularly in the months when there's not an accelerator, we will be having more programming, right? So we'll do a hackathon once a year. We'll be doing various Tech on Tap events focused on healthcare. We'll be doing a pitch competition. We'll be doing a variety of different programming to support the City of Glendale and the neighboring cities during the months when we're not actually in session. So that's the idea behind the 12 months is 3 months of really intense programming and is an accelerator, but the other 9 months is a lot of pre and post work from an accelerator perspective, but it also is quite a bit of community development, community support. Do I have partnership in the Bay Area? I lots of contacts, Barbara, in the Bay Area, but would love to have additional contacts. So again, I'll put my email address in the chat. In fact, I'll do it right now. And would love any introductions you can make via email. So there you go. Let's see. We're in Glendale. Okay, great. Thank you, Amir. Please reach out. I'll reach out to your startup. That's right. I remember the thread. Understand how problem statements map to the firms. Problem statements come first. No, so we don't go. It's a good question. So the problem statements lead to the application. So here's the way I'd put it. So let's say next month I meet with these children's hospitals, and let's say Texas Children's Hospital and Seattle Children's Hospital and the Children's Hospital in Orlando, Florida. They all identify that in their hospital they have a very big issue associated with pain management for kids. So if that's the problem they're identifying, now when we put out our application, we're going to say, look, we would love to look for any startup, but specifically startups that have a focus on these 6 areas. And one of those areas would be pain management in this example. And so then we would do it's a concerted effort to try to find startups whose technologies are aligned with, in this case, pain management for kids. And so we will prioritize those as we look through our startup applications, and then we will show those startups specifically to these hospitals that I mentioned, whatever the hospitals they are. And then that way we're kind of, it's kind of like a reverse pitch, right? So the hospitals have identified what they need. And so then when we find those startups that are meeting those needs, ideally there's more connection, synergy, and opportunity for success. So hopefully that answers your question, but that's Kevin, how we're thinking about doing this. Yeah, so Armand, thank you. We do plan, particularly with a lot of our programming, to engage with the 3 different hospitals in Glendale. So we've already been talking to all 3 hospitals about how we can engage them in a hackathon, or how we can engage them in some of our pitch competitions. But we think it would be really relevant. I know many of them are really swamped right now, especially today and this week with COVID. And so we're trying to be respectful of that. But over time, over the next many years, our goal is to leverage the fact that you have 3 amazing hospitals in Glendale and see how we can partner with them. Can I show? So the first slide. So JT would like to see the very first slide. I assume he doesn't mean I assume JT doesn't mean this one, probably. Probably not the title. I'm guessing it's this one. Hopefully that's the one you mean. If not, we can toggle. But I think the goal of this slide, just to walk through it, is, we believe pretty strongly that pediatrics has lagged behind quite a bit when it comes to tech and innovation, but not because there's not enough problems to solve there or interested people who want the solutions. We've basically been left behind because pediatrics is often, a bit of a, this one, yeah, this is the one JT wants. There's a couple challenges I'll candidly talk to you about in terms of pediatrics, and we'll probably do a whole session around this sometime in one of our virtual or in-person sessions in the fall. Peds is a difficult space for a variety of reasons. One reason is the funding is just much less, right? So pediatric hospitals generally are heavily funded by public insurance, specifically Medicaid. So in our state, it's mostly it's Medi-Cal, and that accounts for somewhere between 50 to 70% of revenue coming from a children's hospital. Now, on average, just to give you an idea, an adult hospital takes anywhere from 5 to 20% Medi-Cal. So it's a sizable difference in pediatrics. And the reason that's important is Medi-Cal often pays much less than commercial insurance. So as a result, the amount of revenue coming into a children's hospital is substantially different than revenue coming into an adult hospital. So when you're talking about investing in or funding new technology, whether it's a pilot or a contract, whatever else, the pie is smaller because we're dealing with revenue that is often heavily influenced by Medicaid. The other challenge is that pediatric hospitals generally tend to be smaller because they, outside of Texas Children's, which is almost 1,000 beds, most of them are kind of like CHLA, 300 or so beds, which is not small. It's the average size of a hospital in the US. But from an entrepreneur perspective, if you're trying to go to a UCLA or a Keck or a Cedars or a Providence or a Kaiser, the big hospitals in LA, I'm sure there's some more, those hospitals can create monstrous contracts because they're so big. Children's hospitals are just generally smaller, and so you have to get to many of them before you can get sizable contracts that investors are really interested in, which is where we think KidsX can help, because as you've seen, we have 20 hospitals in our network. So that's another thing that kind of de-risks it a little bit. There are other issues around regulatory challenges because we're solving problems for kids and for parents. There's just a whole host of issues that make it a little bit more challenging. But on the flip end, the reward is great, right? Helping a child, helping a parent deal with their child's illness, there is both a business opportunity there, but also, of course, an altruistic opportunity where you're actually helping not only that child, but theoretically that child for the rest of their life if they're able to heal and get better. So, we believe in the space. We think it's a really important space. But for those of you who are hoping to engage with us, it is a difficult space, and that's why we're doing it. So just wanted to point that out. So I'll do a 5-second pause to see if there's any other questions, and if not, we can bring on Humberzum for his presentation. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it, and I am very pleased to announce our fellow accelerator within the City of Glendale, Hero House. Humberzum, I'd love to turn it over to you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Omkar. This was very exciting and very, very interesting. So, next slide. So I'd like to briefly introduce what is Hero House and who is the SmartGate, the operator of the program, and what we are going to do. So very briefly, so SmartGate is a pre-seed stage VC fund. So we so far invested in 18 companies. And we started in January 2018, and all of them are in pre-seed stage. So usually we are the first investor, and very often we are the lead investor in rounds like up to a few hundred Ks. And already some of our companies did a few $1 million seed rounds each, and some of them are already somehow present also in the South California and Glendale. So, and Hero House is basically the ecosystem for SmartGate. So the first SmartGate fund was 3 million, and now we are about to kickstart the second SmartGate fund, which will be in tens of millions. So, the Hero House in Glendale is going to be going to serve for the for several important. Is going to serve to reach for a few important goals. So next slide. So these are the partners, the founders of Hero House and SmartGate. So Ashot, he has a financial background, and myself, I'm going to be in charge of running the Hero House in Glendale. And Vazgen, he's a tech background. He established one of the leading AI research labs in Armenia. It's called Yerevan, and co-founder of a startup which is doing pretty well now. So next one. So what's the mission and goal of Hero House here in Glendale? So it's around those. So the mission would be, so we really are very ambitious here and want to become one of top tech startup hubs in LA area. So in LA County in South California during next 3 to 5 years. And this is a step-by-step process, so with a lot of patience and hard work behind it. And we start with establishing a startup program, and we aim to make it one of the top and well-known startup programs during this period. So second one, so we are, as a fund, we are investing a lot in deep tech, in companies which have proprietary technology, very often backing or solving the problems. So, now we are going to consolidate the scientific and technological potential here in the LA area that we see the universities and other research facilities. So with the City of Glendale, so we are also aiming to contribute for making Glendale a tech hub. That's also one of our main goals. And of course, in Glendale, we want to consolidate the venture capital and also do a lot of work on developing angel investor community. So most probably there will be also very small starting in the beginning. So there will be very small angel network, which is going to be around Hero House here in Glendale, which we think to expand over time. So the scope will be the following. So the startups and startup program, it is going to be space. It's going to be 7,000 square feet space with desks that companies can come and work. So some of the companies will receive a sort of scholarships, which means free desks. So they just come and work from there in order to create this community. So there will be a lot of activities, programs, events, and with a specific focus to boost entrepreneurship and tech entrepreneurship specifically among local community and youth. So as I said, so we will consolidate network of engineers and scientists around the place with different, let's say, educational programs also, or purely technological events. I talked about angel investors community, and of course promoting Glendale as a tech hub. It's one of the main items in the scope of Hero House. So in terms of strategic partners, so we run the program with the help of various partners, and the main partner in startups and startup program is High Rise Investments. It's a starting network of angel investors with whom we are going to back some of the deals which are going to the program. So in case of various activities for the community and youth, so Armenian Engineers and Scientists Association is a key partner here. So we are going to do a lot of joint projects on this direction. And of course, so ASA is a key partner also in this consolidation work of engineers and scientists around the Hero House. So so High Rise, again, so Angels Investors Community, it's the partner we are going to do it with. And of course, with the City of Glendale, so we see the City of the Glendale as a key partner in promoting Glendale as a tech hub. So first creating the capacity and then promote the capacity which is created. Next one. So a few words, maybe more details about the partnership with the City of Glendale. So we plan to launch the program so already this year, end of this year, and based on the first run, we'll review also. We are willing to review also a Glendale tech strategy and put our input. So it's not only now. So it's not only becomes about running a startup program, but also about contributing to the further development of Glendale tech strategy. So yeah, with the City of Glendale, we think there will be a lot of joint startup and technological events and programs, which are again putting Glendale on a tech map in South California. And there's a very crazy and bold idea to prepare and position Glendale as a top post-COVID launchpad, because initially the startup program that we won the grant with was targeting international companies, but now the call is open for all companies, so both from US and international. But again, we want to have this. We want to create a program, a capacity here in Glendale, which in post-COVID world, because we see already some changes there, that brings a lot of value in post-COVID world also. So next one. Very briefly, very high-level view of the Glendale Gateway program. That's how we call the acceleration program. So we are going to target companies which have some very early traction. So in average, it's 2 to 20K MRR, or in case of, let's say, B2C, maybe it's some significant, but again, very, very initial user base. So there's no specific focus in whether it's a B2B or B2C. So there's no differentiation via business models. So the target market, so we're going to work with the companies which are targeting Southern California as their primary target market. Some of key partners for the program, specifically for the program, are Service Titan and Disco, which are local companies, tech companies, which are going to support us with joint activities like sharing their expertise in both B2B enterprise in case of Service Titan and B2C models in case of Disco and like growth hacking stuff. So so that their product managers, their salespeople, their customer success people, their marketing people will be also engaged in the Hero House Glendale Gateway program in order to bring value to the companies with their knowledge and expertise. So program start was initially planned for December. Now we are considering few options, maybe to start earlier, or maybe to have the program remote, or maybe have some hybrid model. So partly remote and partly here in Glendale. So the timeline here. So next slide, please. So the timeline here will be the following. So now we are finalizing the paperwork and doing some basic preparation. So applications are going to be open in August and will stay open until end of September. So during this period, we'll do at least one info day end of August or beginning of September, which will talk only about the Gateway program and in much detail. So the selection is planned for October, and Hero House launch, the space is planned for November. But again, it's subject to adjustments based on further COVID developments. And hosting at least 10 companies. That's our goal in December, which means so because the program is 12 weeks long, so we expect the demo day will be in March. And during April and May, we'll still be doing work with the portfolio companies in order to finalize the deals in the pipeline they'll have, or further support their fundraising. Yeah, this is in a nutshell, and I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. So Draper University, they position so they have few programs, but the main program that they are positioning themselves and they are selling, it's called Hero Training, and Draper University is also one of our partners in this game, and we are going to have various types of value exchange with them. And the program that the Draper University is doing is more for a much earlier stage. So they say it's a pre-acceleration program or more incubation program. In our case, we are going to work only with companies which have already some initial traction, as it was presented before. So Hero House Glendale office is going to be around Hero House train station. So the address is 326 Miraloma Avenue. So it's north, so it's south of Glendale.
Bartim, I believe one of the questions is, what verticals are you targeting?
What? Sorry.
What
What verticals?
verticals are you targeting? Correct.
So, so this is a generic program, so we don't have any specific focus. So any company or so any startup can apply, and based on the network we have and the value that we think we can bring to the company during the program, we'll make a selection. So this will be one of the selection criteria for us, if we can really bring value to the companies who are applying. So the number is 18 actually, so 18, not 80 companies. Of course, we are going to nurture this community. So we are going to nurture the Hero House community. So not only the companies who are going to be in the program are going to benefit from the program, but also of course alumni, and not only alumni, but we also think that companies who will be again hosted at Hero House or will be again part of a wider Hero House community are going to benefit from Hero House in one or another way. So annually, we think we'll have at least one program, at least for the first year. It's planned to have one program for the first year. Then again, based on learnings, we'll adjust, and there is an opportunity to have 2 programs, 2 cohorts per year.
There are some questions in the Q&A as well. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'll read it. What are the terms of your accelerator and what does it cost us? How much equity do you require? That's the first question. The second question is, what's the average level of investment? What's the least you've invested and what's the most you've invested?
Cool. So the first question, so it's going to be equity free. So we are not going to charge companies for the participation. At least it will be in the beginning. So it's a pilot program for us. So it's a pilot program for the city, and for the first cohort, we want to understand what we are really strong at and what we can leverage further. So we are confident further that we are charging for a real value. So initially it will be free participation, so no fees, no equity. In case of investment, so we invest, so usually we say we invest up to 100K, but we are investing also, we can, so the largest check size so far was 150. So the round sizes are different that we are investing. Usually it's few 100K, so up to 500,000, where we put maybe starting from 50K. But I want to mention this is with the current fund, and with the current fund, we'll be finishing investing around mid next year, so in about a year. And now the second fund, which will invest also in further stages, so not only pre-seed, but it will also invest in seed stage and maybe also round A. And the ticket sizes, of course, will be much bigger. So what sort of programming are you planning during the course of each accelerator cohort? There will be three main focuses. So in the program, so first one will be fundraising, so helping companies to get to start talking to investors or further helping them to get results. So second one will be sales, which means bringing them customers. So there will be huge support in sales with the mentor network. So there will be weekly calls. I will present this in more details during the info day, but just saying in a nutshell. So there will be a matching of mentors with the companies which are going through the program, who are going to work on a regular basis, and people and our team is going to track the progress. So second direction will be sales, so enabling sales and so getting customers. And the third direction will be growth hacking, which may be another term for marketing, but very targeted marketing. Because in this kind of very early stage, what you really need is very targeted marketing, or saying otherwise, efforts for lead generation. So I will share my email in the chat, so for contact information. So let me. So it's humbardzum@smartgate.vc.
Great. If there are any other questions for either Omkar or Humbardzum, we have about 5 to 10 more minutes. So feel free to put in your questions in the Q&A. Okay, it doesn't seem like there are any other questions. Well, thank you for the lovely presentations. We are glad to have you all in Glendale. On behalf of the Economic Development Division, I would like to extend our sincere appreciation to all of you for joining us in today's Tech on Tap event. We look forward to seeing you all at next month's event, which will be announced in a few weeks. And you all have Humbardzum's and Omkar's contact information, so feel free to reach out to them as well. And yes, the recording will be posted on our Glendale Tech Week page.
Thank you. This was a great pleasure.
Thank you all.